Some racers have a saying, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
So today, we're here to look at some of the most infamous motorsport hacks racers have used to bend the rules.
First clip.
This is the greatest cheater in racing history. His name is Smokey Yunick, and his most famous trick was his basketball in the fuel tank hack to get around NASCAR's strict 26-gallon fuel limit. The tank on his car was actually 28 gallons, but Smokey made it seem compliant by placing an inflated basketball inside the tank, which took up space. When NASCAR inspectors checked the car, they filled the tank, finding it held exactly 26 gallons. After inspection, Smokey would deflate the basketball and remove it, freeing up the full 28 gallons of space for fuel.
Smokey's such a G.
He's the patron saint of rulebook interpretation.
He's the patron saint of that.
It feels bad to call him a cheater.
Yeah, the term cheater's rough.
It didn't say you couldn't have a basketball in the...
It didn't say that. He didn't put it in the rules, no basketball.
So it was 26 at some point.
I feel like you got to get some credit for that kind of innovation. Yeah. He's an innovator.
Plus, you needed a place to keep the basketball.
What if you want to play basketball after you're done racing?
Yeah, you got to keep in shape. It's been pointed out many, many times in the racing biz. It's not what the rule book says, it's what the rule book doesn't say.
I will say, as time goes on, it probably makes it, you have to be even more innovative than the generation before you. It makes it harder to cheat because all of the innovators that came before, right?
Geniuses.
That is genius. Come on. Smokey's a G, though.
Pour one out for Smokey.
Yes. For those of you joining us, just in case you have not seen many of the episodes that Mr. Joe Morgan has been on with us, Joe's a racer through and through. You've done and seen a lot of things.
I started with the old Battle of the Imports back in the day at Palmdale. Right. The Naira, Pyra, NHRA Sport Compact Series.
Full pedigree. Let's check out that next clip.
Toyota Team Europe was struggling to remain competitive with their 6th generation Celica, a car that had barely beaten Subaru by 11 points in the 1994 season. Toyota engineers began looking for devious ways to improve their car, and quickly settled on the restrictor as a likely victim. The problem was, these restrictors were inspected at every race to ensure that they were installed and functional. To sneak an illegal mod past the judges would be nearly impossible, right? Well, what Toyota came up with is perhaps the most genius cheating scandal ever uncovered. Their restrictor appeared completely normal during inspection, but during the race, it would be shifted 5 millimeters forward, thanks to a clever set of curved washers. This allowed air to bypass the restrictor completely, giving the Celica a 25% increase in airflow and an estimated 50 extra horsepower.
Wow.
Nice. I heard about this one. I hadn't seen the illustration of it. I heard about this deal. Ultimately, what people pay for is close racing.
Right.
So they want to put people in the stands and they want to see. It's not that much fun when the one team that has a lot of money, it just runs off.
Right. Blowing everybody out the water.
Blowing everybody out the water. So sanctioning bodies will try to restrict the horsepower or restrict innovation to some extent, to try to keep everybody in a bunch. So
keeps it more talent oriented too, which I think is fair.
Sure.
I mean, but amongst drivers.
Yeah. But it's really trying to tighten up the competition.
So the restrictor,
it's a fairly cheap way to keep a lid on the horsepower. If you've only got a hole about that big, you can only put so much air through it.
So we're restricting essentially how much air is being taken into a compressor or a turbo,
which is a big deal on a turbo because when you restrict the inlet, you drop the pressure and you're raising the pressure ratio. So it makes it a lot harder for the turbo to work when you drop it. So that's a bad place for a turbo to have a restrictor. So any little advantage that you take, creatively by moving the restrictor slightly.
And what's that, 5 millimeters?
It's 5 millimeters the other dude doesn't have.
You know what?
They probably want a couple.
You make it past a couple and you're like, okay, well, it was worth it.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
Gotta do what you gotta do. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Exactly.
They were banned for the next season.
You know what? Okay, so they were banned for the next season. Yeah. Maybe it wasn't worth it.
That's not really interpretation. They literally moved the restrictor out of the way.
This is straight up breaking the law.
Yeah.
These work great. Thanks to today's sponsor, Loop Earplugs, you can protect your ears while still hearing what you want to hear. They're designed to filter out sound rather than completely blocking it, making them ideal for staying safe while working in a busy garage or great for going to a concert.
It's not hurting my ears.
They're reusable and completely washable, so you can keep your ears clean and clear. And they're a certified passive hearing protection, which means you don't have to deal with batteries or finding a USB cable to charge them. Just pop them in and you're good to go. If you're anything like me, you have a hard time keeping track of anything, which is why they come with this classy carrying case. It's easy to hang on to and it protects your earbuds between uses. Loop earplugs are great for sleeping, traveling, or when it's time to focus and get the job done. If you want to preserve your hearing without missing out on what you want to hear, get yourself a pair of Loop earplugs. Click the link below to learn more. That is loud. Not for me.
There's a big difference between innovation and cheating. Joe, can you think of maybe an instance where the lines have gotten blurred between the two?
I heard about a deal back in the old Wild West days of Trans Am, late 60s, early 70s or something, where they took some completely non-original parts and adopted some factory part numbers, and some receipts may have been made, you know, that kind of a thing. And so, and otherwise the illegal part became
legal.
Yeah, let's call it parts washed. It became parts washed.
Okay, so this is super interesting. So we had to look it up. It turns out that in the 70s in the Trans Am series, like Joe was just mentioning right now, Penske, with their AMC Javelin, didn't have good enough brakes, I suppose, and they ended up taking brakes off of a Porsche 917 that they actually took to AMC and had them stamp a part number on them and sell them to them over the counter so that they'd be counted as genuine AMC parts, to which they put on their AMC Javelin, giving them an upper hand with Porsche brakes.
To be fair, Porsche probably didn't make the brakes. They're probably made by some other company.
That's probably a fair point right there, too. Check out that next clip.
This is a real race car that has one of the greatest stories in NASCAR history ever. The car belonged to Smokey Yunick, one of NASCAR's all-time great personalities and cheaters. I mean, interpreter of the rules. So when it came time to building his Chevelle for the Daytona 500, he used just about every trick he could. The rules of the day allowed teams to use frames from other manufacturers, so Smokey, well, he built his own. Except he took his to a whole nother level. He offsetted as much of the weight as possible, including the driver. He also made the thing as light as possible, and when the car came in 100 pounds under the minimum weight requirement, well, he put the weight back in on the left-hand side of the car. This was all in an attempt to make the car go around the Daytona corners better. So naturally the car was inspected prior to the 500. One of these inspections was removing the fuel tank. Smokey had a bit of a reputation at this point. So the officials came back to Smokey and told him of his violation. Smokey was pissed. He got in the car, started it up, said add another one to the list, and drove off without a fuel tank. Turns out the car had an 11-foot long, 2-inch wide fuel line that in and of itself could hold another 2-ish gallons of fuel.
That clever guy.
That's the point right there. Did the rule book say that you couldn't have a large fuel line?
Didn't say it.
If it didn't say it, then
you're not breaking the rules. There was no rule against it.
You need to stop calling him a cheater. This is
innovation.
You're just taking it. You got to have a fuel line. It doesn't say how big it has to be. So, you know, I wonder how far he made it on that fuel line.
When they're saying that you can make your own frame, what do you expect?
Yeah.
If come on, what do you think people are gonna do?
Yeah.
Put some respect on Smokey's name.
Yeah. You know there's a rule now.
No, I mean, for sure.
My friend was pointing out, he said one time that the top honor in motorsports is when you have a rule.
That's
because
from
of you.
So let's innovate into that next clip.
In the wild days of 1960s NASCAR, race teams had no shortage of tricks up their sleeves to gain a competitive edge. One of the boldest and most ingenious cheats of the time was the secret gas tank hack. The trick was simple yet effective. Crews would install an extra concealed fuel tank somewhere inside the car, adding critical extra mileage per fill-up. Some teams hid these tanks in places like the roll bars, frame rails, or even behind the dashboard, so that during pre-race inspections, it would blend right in. Eventually, NASCAR banned the practice outright.
Banned it like you don't get to race ever again if you get caught? I don't think so.
The bandit is in like the fuel line has to be completely exposed.
Right.
You have to be able to see it from one place to the next. Like it has to be, completely visible and that type of stuff. That's where those kind of rules come from.
Right. And here we go. We got the standardizing fuel line specification. That's the Smokey rule. No more 2-inch fuel line. We've got
no basketballs.
Yeah, we're using radiator hoses for fuel line. I'm trying to think like how can you keep people from doing this, but just keeping your fuel lines exposed.
They used to do even wilder stuff in the roll bars. People that had nitrous, like actual nitrous.
Okay, I mean, yeah, I can see that. Okay,
the roll bar would be pressurized. So, yeah, and they're like, "Oh no, this is just for crack detection. This is just They'd have a pressure gauge on the roll bar. You're like, no, just to tell.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So have you heard about the scandal, the 2018 scandal of the Harvick car being penalized because of a window brace?
There's another long tradition of them playing with the body panels in the back of NASCAR, playing with the car attitude. I had heard about that window deal and the sort of making the car a little flexible in the back. I had heard about that one. Yeah.
Perhaps.
Yes.
See that back glass where it's sucked in right there, Casey? Show them where it is. That is pretty blatantly obvious that this has got something that's not supposed to be there.
Yeah, and the concern is when you see this on the track is that anytime that you can get this rear glass to deflect, it can pull the air down on the spoiler and create more downforce.
Put more downforce right there on that rear spoiler, and that's the thing that everybody is really concerned about is somebody getting an unfair advantage on the other guy.
Well, some of the other competitors actually noticed this on the track. Let's hear what Chase Elliott and his crew chief, Alan Gustafson, had to say.
See that right rear, that forward glass, is it bowed down? Yep, kind of where the jack, between the orange jack screw and the black lining, it's bowed from the right side of the jack screw over. Yeah, right by the K. When he's up to speed, I think pushes down about, 2 inches, 3 inches.
Show us where on the car he's talking.
Well, here's what we're talking about. These are the braces that run up from the down bar to support the back of the roof. And the one on the right side, folks, you'll look at it when you want to draw up where it's going.
Jimmy John's make me hungry.
I know.
So it's not got the support that it needs right in this area. And this is where we saw that in that picture a moment ago, Casey, where all that pressure was coming down. It's a big concern, but also when you take a look at the rule and what happened, no matter whether it was an accidental situation or not, but the braces and support must, at the rear glass, be supported and be rigid at all
times.
That means
in all directions.
You have a situation like this happen. So as soon as that brace broke, whether it was intentional or not, the penalty was incurred. I mean, there was no way getting around it.
We have these regulations, so the spoiler's got to be at least a certain height up above. That's going to possibly create almost like a dam or work against aerodynamics, so it slows us down, narrowing our playing field a little bit, allowing this window to dip down. Allowed being a soft term, we know it broke. Allowing that window to dip down a little bit kind of helps bypass some of this, right? So it maybe creates a little bit more downforce.
They probably figured out something in the wind tunnel.
Right,
you
right.
just keep trying stuff, and sometimes you get away with it, and sometimes you don't.
Like when this brace breaks and you accidentally win the race.
Yeah.
You gotta respect. I feel like above all the other innovations we've seen, to be able to say like, well, oh no, this happened because it broke. It's not our fault. That's good.
That's a pretty explicit rule.
That's good.
That's an explicit rule, though.
That's a very explicit rule.
Yeah.
It broke, Joe. They had no control over it.
In all directions at all times.
At all times.
Yeah, that's.
Listen, how else are you going to get around a rule unless something breaks?
Yeah, but that right there, that's an example of a very clearly written rule.
Oh, definitely.
That's a clear line.
That's like the Toyota Celica. It was a clear cheat. You almost got away with it if it wasn't for those meddling.
If it wouldn't have been for those meddling window braces.
Next clip.
In the 60s, NASCAR used to use grain scales and freight scales that really weren't very accurate. And a lot of times what guys would do is they'd load stuff up in the cars that would increase the weight of the car as it went over the scales. There was one case where a guy had a helmet made of lead. One of the most famous incidents
he drank out of
involved Gary
Oh
Nelson. He was crew chief for Kyle Petty and did this with Darrell Waltrip also, is they would take 300 pounds or so of buckshot and fill it in the frame rails.
I feel like you'd hear that though.
Maracas.
Right, yeah, that's it. A helmet made of lead though. They were not concerned about anybody's. I mean, I'm sure they switched it out before the race and everything, but still.
I think you're discounting the radiation aspect of the whole thing.
That's what I'm saying. You know,
it could have been safer in some ways, depending on where they were at.
That's true.
Yeah, I think.
Can Magneto control? Like the buckshot in the frame rail, though, the Maraca situation makes me happy.
They still do that. They do add lead to make weight in classes and stuff like that. So one of the best ways to improve the performance of a car is you build a car well under the weight, and then you put the weight where you want it.
Right.
Kind of like
so you're
Smokey did in that other car.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'm 100 pounds under. Let me add it to this side.
But then you could put the weight in an advantageous place.
They didn't say where the weight had to be.
Yeah.
Just said it had to weigh this much.
Exactly.
If it ain't in the rules, it ain't against the rules.
Exactly.
Words to live by.
We're going to take a left turn into this next clip.
Did you know an ordinary photographer caught McLaren cheating in F1? Because in 1997, McLaren was dominating the sport, and people were confused on how they got so good. That was until photographer Darren Heath noticed something weird in his photos. The brakes for McLaren glowed when going around turns. During the next race, both McLarens were retired, and Heath was able to take a closer look inside the cockpits. That's when he snapped this infamous photo showing McLaren had another brake that only braked one of the rear wheels, making a difference in torque on the car and easier for drivers to fly through corners. Once they were caught, McLaren had to pay $1 million in fines.
That's nothing in F1 dollars. That's like Monopoly money.
Yeah.
That's insane. How did they pass tech like that?
Maybe they thought it was a manual. It was a clutch pedal.
I'm flabbergasted. McLaren paid somebody off. How did you pass tech like that? They have to look at that. Can you explain why braking on one wheel might be advantageous for F1?
If you drag one side, it's gonna start to turn the car in.
Right.
You turn the wheel and cut one
It's
brake.
going to allow you to pitch a lot faster, perhaps. That's
like,
what
man,
my
that
thought
thing
is.
really turns.
Why is they just turn so much better than everybody else?
Yeah.
That's cool. You know what? Good for you, McLaren.
Hats off.
I can sense his presence.
The ghost of Smokey Unic.
The ghost of Smokey Unic is here. We're gonna break into that next clip.
Darrell Waltrip cheated, and everybody knows it.
What?
In 1985, in the very first All-Star race, Darrell Waltrip most likely brought an illegal motor, and he ended up dropping the clutch after he crossed the line to take home the victory to blow the motor up, so it would pass post-race inspection.
You see here, I'm waving. I'm a happy camper. I just won the race. I crossed the finish line, and I'm waving to the fans, and I'm elated, and boom! She blows all the people.
What?
Oh, I wonder.
It's better to be lucky than good.
What's that? Oogity boogity.
Better be lucky than good.
Good old Darrell Waltrip. That's genius, though.
That is really genius.
It worked. It worked. Did it work? It worked.
You can't prove anything.
Or it may or may not have worked. I think it did work.
Well, they caught him, but it was too late. He already won, passed inspection, blew the motor.
Well, it didn't pass inspection. Oh, it didn't have to go.
It didn't have to because he blew it.
It's hard to check.
A grenaded engine,
Yes.
yeah. I don't know what happened, but I can assure you everything was up to regulation.
I'm sure. You wonder what it was that was illegal about it.
We'll never know.
I really am curious about what exactly it was that was illegal, because there would have been enough to do basic stuff.
Listen, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? Nobody knows, because you chew them mother loving thing before you get them. That's what happened here. Joe, again, always a pleasure. Thanks for coming on. If you want to see any more RMS videos, click somewhere in the square.
Somewhere
Somewhere here. And we'll see you in the next one.